Hi, welcome to a Psalm for today. Your reassuring voice that Jesus is Lord. The 74th Psalm is our topic today. I think it is a model, maybe, or at least an example of how to talk to God in very difficult times. Scholars are uncertain when the 74th Psalm was written. However, some think it was written on the occasion of the Babylonians destroying the temple, or the destruction of Jerusalem by the Babylonians. You can imagine that destroying a temple would take a lot of time. Even in our generation, having cranes and front-end loaders and all of this, it takes time to destroy a building. And so perhaps the psalmist is watching day in and day out, the destruction of Jerusalem. Or perhaps the psalmist is looking back on the destruction of Jerusalem. But nonetheless, what I find interesting in the psalm is that he is not afraid to give his perspective right now. So we end up with a theology and a practice that don't align all the time. Yesterday we talked about God is good, but the psalmist is like, well, I wonder if he's good all the time. Well, in Psalm 74, it opens with this line, "O God, why hast thou cast us off forever?" In that moment, the psalmist was feeling this was a forever thing. And if he would have remembered the covenants of the Lord, that the Lord had made a covenant forever with his people, it would have been a different mindset. But nonetheless, he felt comfortable to express how he felt in that particular moment in time. And you can do the same. I can do the same. We can come to the place of saying, God, I know this is true. I know my sins are forgiven. But right now, I don't feel forgiven. I know that to live is Christ, to die is gain, but I'm not feeling like dying is gain. And so the psalmist lays out for us, I think, in Psalm 74, a way to feel what we're feeling right now and also hold our theologies, hold our beliefs. I think the psalmist lays out kind of a threefold approach to this situation. Number one, at the beginning of the psalm, he explains to God his complaint. The complaint, God, is that I'm watching this destruction. This is my complaint. In the middle of the psalm, he says, here's what you did in the past. He remembered what God had done in the past. And then thirdly, he ends with, and here's what I would like you to do in the present. So I think a model is good for us to remember that when we come across devastating times or times we don't understand, that we too can say, God, here's how I'm feeling in this very moment. Number two, here's what you did in the past. You did all this incredible stuff in the past, and I'm asking you to do it again. I remember in, is it Habakkuk, that said, we have heard of your deeds, O God. We have seen and we know about your fame. Renew them in our day. Renew your deeds in our day. And obviously the most common remembrance in the Old Covenant is God delivering the people from Egypt, his people from Egypt, or bondage. And saying, God, to do that, you had to do a lot of stuff. You had to change Pharaoh's attitude. You had to provide. You had to separate the Red Sea. You gave us a tabernacle. This long list of things God did in order to set his people free from bondage in Egypt. So you and I, when we come to things in life, what my father would say back in the day is, we set God in remembrance of his promises. And so the psalmist is saying, God, I want you to remember what you did for me. Lord, I remember you healed my dad's paralysis. I remember you healed me of kidney failure. I remember you healed my sister of nephritis. I remember you miraculously provided for our family food and clothing when there was a lack of both. I remember you supernaturally sent an angel to provide for us. I remember how that you were an ever-present help in the time of trouble. We remember. Now, I don't know who this helps more. Well, I do. God doesn't actually need us to remind him, but we need to remind him. It is good for us to remember the promises of God. And then to say, God, here is my complaint. Here's what you've done in the past. And he ends with, arise, O God, plead thine own cause. Remember, forget not the voice of thine enemies. He brings the psalm around to say, God, here's what we'd like you to do in this season of our lives. And so as you navigate your life and you see things that seem like they're forever, when you know in fact they aren't, but they seem like it, you're able to say, God, I'm going to put into words how I feel right now. Remember what you've done